Today I'm winterizing our travel trailer. This is something that we took to the dealer to have done last year, and I videotaped and learned from that, made a video. This year I'm going to do it myself, and in this video I'm going to take you through step by step the process. I am going to be following pretty much the same process they did at the dealership. Essentially we're going to blow out all the air lines so there's no water in the camper, and then we're going to feed antifreeze into the antifreeze inlet to get some antifreeze in all the water lines. Winterizing your camper is important if you're going to be storing it somewhere where it gets below freezing temperatures so that the water doesn't freeze in your lines and expand and hurt your water system. There are a few tools you're going to need for this. You're going to need an adapter to be able to hook up to your air compressor. I'll show you this a little bit closer later. You will need an air compressor with a regulator so that you can control the pressure that goes into your camper. You don't want to put in too much pressure, otherwise you could hurt the lines. You'll also need a hose that can hook up to the antifreeze inlet, which is right up here on our camper. So inside the camper there's a valve I can switch so that the water pump, instead of pulling from the freshwater tank, will pull from the antifreeze inlet and will feed it antifreeze through this hose. I purchased 3 gallons of antifreeze. You want to make sure that you get antifreeze that's safe for water systems, so I just made sure that it said RV on it. This is actually the exact same stuff they used at the dealer last year. And then to be able to drain your water heater, you will need a 1 1/16 inch socket and then either a ratchet or a breaker bar. This is what I used in the video where I showed how to empty the water heater, and I'll use it for this as well. I'll add links to all of these products in the description. I'm also following a checklist I have on our website, which I'll also link in the description. Some of the stuff I did already is I emptied the fresh water tank and the black and gray tanks, and if your camper has a black tank flush like ours does, I would suggest giving that a really good rinse out and while you're emptying it, just since it's the last time you'll use it for the season. Before you get started, make sure that you're not hooked up to water in any way, not hooked up to city water, and you don't have your water pump on. Your fresh tank should be empty anyways. You don't want to start this if you're feeding fresh water into the system. You also want to make sure that the water heater's cooled off. I mentioned this in the video about emptying the water heater. Definitely wait till it's cooled off so you don't scald yourself and get injured. So just as one final reminder, make sure that the water in the water heater is not hot. You want to release the pressure valve and then you'll remove the anode rod, but make sure you're not standing in front of it in case it comes flying out. So we'll do the release first, and then I can come in and remove the anode rod. Here's the regulator on our air compressor. So there's a dial here where I'll be able to turn it. I don't have it plugged in right now, but I wanted to show it because I don't know how loud it'll be when I plug it in. But if I turn to the right, the pressure will go up. If I turn to the left, it'll go down. This is important to get between maybe like 30 to 40 psi so that you're not blowing too much air into the camper, because it can only handle a certain amount of pressure. So I'll plug it in and adjust that down to probably around 35. And then we'll be able to use this to completely blow out the hot water heater. We'll be blowing the air into the city water connection. So this is that adapter I mentioned earlier that I'll link to. This will have to go in here. And then your air compressor hose will hook up to that. And then when we turn the air compressor on, it'll be blowing the air into the city water, which will then completely blow out our hot water heater. Once that's blown out well, you can put this relief valve back in place and reinstall the anode rod. Next, we're going to remove the water filter, which is in our camper underneath our bed in the front behind this drawer. One thing you do want to do is turn off the air compressor because you don't want air coming in while you do this, otherwise you're going to have water blowing all over the place. Also, this can be a mess sometimes, so if you have a couple extra towels, it's good to use them as you remove it. So basically, we're going to remove this canister to take the filter out and to dump all the water out of it. Now, I usually just put a towel underneath just in case we make a mess. So take the filter out, dump any water out of it, and then you're just going to put it back in place. Okay, now I can turn the air compressor back on. One thing I noticed with this one is I really had to watch the PSI really closely. It liked to bump up and down, so I've been adjusting it as it goes. But essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the air compressor back on, and we're going to go through to each hot and cold faucet, shower, and we'll even do the toilet just to run the air through. So I'm actually going to turn it on first, the hot one, and then I'm going to turn on the air compressor. So again, what we're looking to do here basically is just use the air to blow out all the water from the lines. And now we'll go through next to the sink and then the shower in the bathroom. I decided to start from the front of the camper to the back. I don't know if it matters, but I thought I'd just work my way through the camper. For the shower, you do want to do the hot and the cold, but you also want to engage the shower thing here to clean out your shower hose as well and head. I'm also going to do the toilet a little bit. We'll leave the lid closed initially and then I can check it out, but I can hear it just blowing air now, so there's no more water coming through. At this point you're done with the air compressor, but in the shower, if there is any extra water sitting on top like I have here, you want to force this down the drain. You don't really want any water sitting in your tub over winter, so just make sure you get this all down the drain. Okay, I'm inside the camper by the water heater because I need to flip that valve by the red line there and the valve at the bottom to bypass the water heater. We're getting ready to start putting antifreeze in the lines, and you don't want to feed it into the hot water heater because you'd have to fill that whole thing up before it started going the rest of the way through your hot water system. So we're just going to bypass that. And then here on the left is my antifreeze bypass valve. So I'll turn this so that we can use that antifreeze inlet. So when we turn the water pump on, it'll pull from there instead of the fresh water tank. So let's switch those quick. See if I can get a good view of all these. Those are the 2 bypass valves. And then down here is the antifreeze inlet valve. So as I mentioned earlier, our camper has an antifreeze inlet. So this is where we'll hook the hose up to. And the other end of the hose will go into our antifreeze bottles. So you will need to kind of keep an eye on these as you're doing it and move it on to the next one as you run out of the first one. I might cut this hose a little shorter because it's a little too long, but basically I'll just stick the end of the hose into here. And when I turn the water pump on, it'll pull from here instead of the fresh tank because I switched that valve underneath. So I'm going to go turn the water pump on and we should see the antifreeze get sucked out of the bottle. Initially all of the valves and stuff are closed, so we're just looking for it to build up pressure first, and then we'll feed it through each of the 2 showers and the sink and the toilet. Yeah, so I can see it filled up and now it's pulling in. We'll just wait for the water pump to turn off and then we'll go around to each one. Okay, now we'll do the shower. We want to turn each one hot and cold and get antifreeze to pull through. So we'll just wait for that to come. Once we have a good stream, we know that we got it full of antifreeze and we can move on to the next one. So now we'll do cold. Now the sink. Hot and cold. We'll do hot and cold on the shower, and we'll engage the hand shower as well to get it through there. And we'll flush the toilet. Now I'm just going to remove the hose from the bottle and then go around to each one again and run it just to get some air to run through now. So we'll just run it until it stops coming out pretty much. In the kitchen. And the shower. And the toilet. And in the shower, I am going to force all of this antifreeze down into the drain as well. Now that we've gone through each one and got any excess antifreeze out of the line, we can turn off the water pump. But you do want to just release any pressure that's still on there from the water pump, so you don't have extra pressure on the lines while it's being stored. So I'll do the hot and the cold, and you just really only need to do that in one location, so I'll just do that here in the kitchen. Just to relieve any pressure that's built up from the water pump that's still in the lines. So one of the last things we need to do is actually empty the antifreeze from the water filter. There's no reason to leave this full, and you don't really want to. So I'm going to take this out. Again, I put a towel underneath because this thing's full and I'm probably going to make a bit of a mess. I'm going to dump half of it down the drain in the kitchen, and then I'm actually going to pour some in the toilet so that there's some antifreeze right inside the bowl. And I'll show that in a second after I get this off. So after you put the water filter container back in place, you're pretty much done winterizing the camper. There are a couple more things I'm going to do. I'm actually going to use air compressor to blow out the black tank flush. That actually can go up to 70 psi according to the manual, so I'm just going to blow that out for a few minutes. And I am going to empty again my gray and black tanks just to get all of the antifreeze and any water that we blew out through the lines out of the tanks for the winter. Again, this is my first time doing this myself, so I definitely appreciate any comments or suggestions. Just leave us a comment on this video and let me know if there's ways I can improve, or if you have any questions about what I did. I tried to follow as close as possible to what the dealer did last fall, and I think I did accomplish that today. I guess I won't know for sure until the spring when we get the camper back out. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like. Happy camping, and thanks for watching.